She didn't leave because you stopped loving her. Most men don't lose their woman because they stopped loving her. They lose her because they stopped being respected. You felt it, didn't you? She didn't leave with a grand goodbye. She left silently, with her energy, her affection, her admiration. Not all at once, but slowly, like a tide pulling back. One day she stopped texting first. Another day she rolled her eyes instead of smiling. And then she stopped looking at you like you were the man. And you can't help but wonder, what changed? Here's the brutal truth. Love doesn't die a loud death. It withers quietly, in the absence of respect. And the moment she stops respecting you, she starts emotionally detaching, not because she doesn't care anymore, but because you've become invisible to the part of her that seeks strength, clarity, and grounded presence. You see, a woman doesn't stop loving you because you weren't nice enough. She stops because you forgot who you were as a man, because you traded direction for comfort, conviction for approval, and boundaries for begging. But here's the good news. Respect lost doesn't mean power gone. Not if you know how to rebuild it from the inside out, through silence, through stillness, and through the wisdom of the Stoics. Today, we're going to break down exactly why she stopped respecting you, and more importantly, how to get it back. Without manipulation, without games, and without losing your soul in the process. Stay with me until the very end, because the final message might just change how you carry yourself for the rest of your life. Let's begin. Part 1. You became emotionally reactive. Imagine this. She doesn't reply for hours. You feel your chest tighten. You text again, just to break the silence. 1 minute she's cold, the next she's warm. She pulls away and you panic. She gets quiet and you explode. You start asking questions she never asked you to answer. You interpret every pause as punishment. And in doing so, you show your hand. Every emotional reaction you give is a silent message. I'm not in control of myself. I'm at the mercy of your mood. And that is where the respect begins to erode. You see, it's not about suppressing how you feel. A Stoic doesn't become a stone, but he also doesn't become a storm. He studies his emotions like a map, reading them, understanding their source, and refusing to let them hijack his behavior. Because here's what she's watching for. Not just how you treat her when things are going well, but how you carry yourself when the ground beneath you shakes. Do you stand still and grounded, or do you flinch, rage, chase, and fold? Emotional reactivity is the fastest way to lose the frame. And once you lose the frame, you lose the dynamic. You become the one reacting instead of leading. And in the masculine-feminine polarity, this shift is death to desire. Epictetus said, "Any person capable of angering you becomes your master." Let that sink in. If she can make you spiral with one glance, one text, one tone, then who really holds the power? A woman doesn't want to control you, but she wants to feel that you are in control of yourself. That no matter what storms rise, you are the calm eye in the middle of it. The still force, the grounded presence. Fix this by choosing stillness when your instincts scream chaos. When emotions rise, don't react, breathe. When you're tempted to fire off a defensive text, stop. Observe your inner state like a Stoic warrior preparing for battle. Respond only when clarity replaces confusion. Speak only when silence has sharpened your words. And if you've ever caught yourself overreacting to her silence or her tests, drop a comment below. I take back my power. It's a small declaration, but it might be the first step to rebuilding everything. Part 2. You over-explain yourself. She raises an eyebrow. You rush to clarify, to justify, not because you're wrong, but because you're afraid she'll pull away. I swear I didn't mean it like that. Let me explain why I did that. I just want to make sure you're not mad. Sound familiar? At first it feels noble. You're trying to be transparent, to avoid misunderstandings, to keep the peace. But here's what she actually hears. I need your approval to feel okay with myself. Over-explaining doesn't create clarity. It creates insecurity. Because the moment you feel the need to explain, you've already placed yourself beneath her, like a child seeking permission. And whether she realizes it consciously or not, something inside her starts to shift. The image of you as a grounded, masculine presence begins to fade, because conviction is attractive. But explanation, especially when it's driven by fear, is repellent. In the Stoic mindset, a man doesn't need to be understood by everyone. He needs to be centered. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." Powerful words and a powerful reminder. When you know your intent, you don't need to explain it. When you know your values, your behavior will speak louder than your mouth ever could. This doesn't mean you become cold or dismissive. It means you trust your own clarity enough to let it speak through silence. You don't chase validation, you embody truth. Fix this by pausing before you speak. Ask yourself, am I explaining to share or to seek approval? Because the second one is a trap. Let your tone be calm. Let your words be few. Say what you mean once, then leave space. If she doesn't accept it, that's her inner work, not yours. Your job isn't to be understood by everyone. Your job is to stand rooted in truth. Have you ever caught yourself over-justifying to keep someone happy? Type in the comments. No more explaining, just being. That shift in mindset, from performer to presence, will change how everyone looks at you, including her. If this video has helped you gain a new perspective, if something in these words hit home, do us a solid. Hit that subscribe button. It's the best way you can support this channel and help us create more content that speaks to the man you're becoming. We're not just here to talk. We're here to build a brotherhood grounded in truth, strength, and philosophy. Thank you for being part of it. Part 3. You apologize too much. You didn't do anything wrong, but you still find yourself saying sorry just to keep her happy, just to avoid the distance. An apology done right is powerful. It takes humility, integrity, emotional intelligence. But when you start apologizing too often, for things you didn't do, for feelings you didn't cause, or just to avoid temporary conflict, it no longer signals strength, it signals surrender. And she feels it. Over-apologizing doesn't say I care. It says I'm afraid. Afraid of her reaction, afraid of confrontation, afraid of losing the connection, even if keeping it means sacrificing your dignity. Here's what she unconsciously learns when you keep saying sorry without clarity or reason. This man values my comfort more than his own truth. And when that happens, something shifts. Respect starts to dissolve, not because she's cruel, but because women instinctively lose admiration for what feels uncertain, unstable, and overly accommodating. It's one thing to be considerate, it's another to turn every disagreement into a performance of guilt, especially when you're apologizing just to reset the emotional tone, not because you genuinely believe you were wrong. A Stoic man doesn't apologize to avoid discomfort. He apologizes when his actions violate his principles, not her emotions. There's a difference. One comes from character, the other comes from fear. And here's the truth you need to hear. Not every moment of tension needs to be resolved with an "I'm sorry." Sometimes what it needs is space, silence, strength. Fix this by pausing before every apology. Ask yourself, am I saying this because I'm wrong or because I'm scared? Am I trying to repair something real or just calm her emotions at my expense? If you've been in a loop of over-apologizing, let's break that cycle today. Comment below. No more fear-based apologies. Let it be your new standard. Because when you stop apologizing for your existence, she starts seeing you again. Not as someone desperate for peace, but as a man worthy of it. Part 4. You lost purpose outside the relationship? She becomes the first thing you think of when you wake and the last thing you think of before you sleep. Your mission? Forgotten. You made her your everything. She became your reason for waking up, your emotional center, your whole world. And at first, she adored it. She felt seen, chosen, special. But eventually, something changed. She started pulling away. Not because she stopped loving you, but because she stopped feeling magnetized by you. Why? Because masculine energy is fueled not by closeness, but by direction, by mission, by purpose. And when a man detaches from that purpose, when he makes a woman the sun he orbits instead of the flame he burns from within, he becomes weightless. He loses gravity. And she starts to feel like the one steering the ship, while quietly resenting the man who gave her the wheel. Seneca once wrote, "If a man knows not to which port he sails, no wind is favorable." In other words, if you have no direction, life won't carry you anywhere worth going, and neither will she. You weren't born to orbit her life. You were born to build yours. And the paradox is this: the more you focus on your mission, the more magnetic you become. Not because you're ignoring her, but because you're embodying the very thing she was drawn to in the beginning. The man with depth, discipline, and drive. Fix this by remembering who you were before the relationship and who you still are underneath it. Reconnect to your vision, your goals, your craft, not to punish her, not to manipulate her, but to awaken the part of yourself that was never meant to depend on her for meaning. When you move with purpose, you speak differently, you carry yourself differently, and she feels it, not in your words, but in your presence. Let's check in honestly. Have you ever lost yourself in a relationship and made her your main focus? If so, drop a comment. I return to my path. Because the moment you do is the moment she starts wondering why she ever doubted your power. Part 5. You rewarded bad behavior. She gave you attitude. You gave her reassurance. She disrespected you. You bought her flowers, and she never had to say she was sorry. She withdrew, and instead of holding your ground, you gave her more attention, more reassurance, more effort. She disrespected you with sarcasm, silent treatments, or passive aggression, and you said nothing. She tested your boundaries, and instead of reinforcing them, you folded to keep the peace. And what did you teach her in that process? You taught her, you can treat me any way you like, and I will still be here. That's not love. That's self-abandonment. Let's be clear, she didn't become disrespectful overnight. You just slowly stopped requiring her to respect you. And the moment you started rewarding bad behavior with more affection, you trained her to expect tolerance without accountability. But stoicism is not weakness. It is not being the bigger person at the cost of your dignity. It is not avoiding conflict by absorbing pain. Stoicism is calm clarity. It's setting standards not from ego but from self-worth. It's not screaming at her to change. It's silently withdrawing the energy that once tolerated what should have never been accepted. Because here's the truth. When you reward behavior that disrespects your values, you don't just lose her respect, you lose your own. Boundaries are not ultimatums, they are mirrors. And when a woman sees that your line doesn't move depending on her emotions, she either rises to meet your standard or removes herself from your life. Fix this by choosing presence over punishment. Don't yell, don't beg, don't explain. Speak once, then fall silent. Withdraw your attention like a king who no longer entertains court jesters. And most importantly, let your boundaries speak without needing applause. Have you ever found yourself overcompensating for her bad behavior just to keep her close? Be honest. Drop a comment. I no longer reward disrespect. This is the shift where your healing begins. Not by teaching her a lesson, but by remembering your own value. The Stoic Masculine Reset. Let's zoom out. By now you've probably realized this isn't about her. It never was. It's about you. Respect doesn't come from raising your voice. It doesn't come from proving a point. And it definitely doesn't come from chasing validation through approval, attention, or apologies. Respect is earned through inner direction. It's felt in the way you walk into a room, in your posture, in your silence, in the grounded stillness behind your eyes. Because when you truly respect yourself, she feels it without you saying a word. You don't need to dominate her. You don't need to control her. You don't even need her to understand you. What you need is to return to the man you were before you forgot your worth. A woman doesn't respect your love. She respects your limits, your calm, your certainty. She doesn't respect the guy who gives everything, but the man who gives from overflow, not emptiness. When you stop chasing her attention, when you stop bending to keep her mood stable, when you stop rewarding what breaks your standards, she doesn't walk away. She starts watching. She starts wondering what changed in him. Because the game flipped, the center shifted, the man awakened. And if you've been feeling like you've lost control of the dynamic, this is your reset point. Comment below. I choose stillness over struggle. Let that be the foundation you rebuild from. Because once a man reclaims his calm, everything changes. Stand up, don't step down. So why did she stop respecting you? It wasn't just one moment. It was a pattern. a slow erosion of masculine presence. You became reactive, responding to every emotional wave with panic or frustration, instead of holding steady like the mountain you were meant to be. You explained too much, hoping that more words would make her feel more secure, while unknowingly exposing your own uncertainty. You apologized not from truth, but from fear, turning sacred accountability into desperate self-preservation. Then you lost your purpose. You stopped living from mission and started living from emotion. She felt it. The man who once had a path now revolved around her moods, her schedule, her validation. And perhaps worst of all, you rewarded her worst behavior, staying when she tested you, giving more when she gave less, tolerating things that slowly chipped away at your dignity. But now, you know. And the way back isn't loud. It doesn't come from confrontation. It doesn't require you to argue, convince, or perform. It's not about winning her back. It's about returning to the man she couldn't look away from in the first place. And that man? He's quiet. He's composed. He's unshakable. The Stoic path doesn't demand that you raise your voice. It demands that you raise your standards. So from this moment on, let your silence speak for you. Not as a weapon, but as a reflection of your self-possession. Let your values guide your decisions, not your fear of loss. Let your boundaries breathe, not because you're trying to change her, but because you've changed your relationship with yourself. She may come back, or she may not. That part is out of your hands. And that's okay, because the true win isn't getting her attention. It's reclaiming your direction. The moment you return to your inner compass, you've already won. This isn't about being cold, it's about being clear. It's not about withholding love, it's about withholding disrespect. It's not about punishing anyone, it's about no longer punishing yourself. You don't chase love, you embody worth. You don't beg for respect, you become a man who commands it. By the way you speak, move, lead, and most importantly, by the way you walk away when a situation no longer reflects the man you've become. If you're ready to stop bleeding energy and start reclaiming your inner power, comment below. I choose respect over approval. Let it be your line in the sand. And if you found value in this Stoic lesson, like, subscribe, and share this with a brother who's losing himself trying to please someone who's forgotten his worth. Welcome to Stoic Spirit, where men rise not by force, but by philosophy.